13 in the Lindsay Clancy trial focused mainly on digital evidence, including evidence from the Surface Pro laptop and Lindsay Clancy's cell phone. The first witness was Kyle Paveo, who works for the state police in cybercrime and computer forensics. He testified about his extraction of the Microsoft Surface Pro that was seized from the Clancy home. The Commonwealth focused on computer activity from August 23, 2022. At approximately 9:40 that morning, records showed a visit or access involving Lindsay Clancy's Facebook profile. At approximately 9:42, there was an activity involving Spotify and a country singer, Tom T. Hall. At 9:44, the song That's How I Got to Memphis was accessed, followed by a Google search for Tom Hall and a visit to his Wikipedia page. From the section discussing Hall's death, a hyperlink was followed to a page concerning self-harm methods. At 9:48 a.m., another hyperlink led to a Wikipedia page about the Grafton Bridge. On cross-examination, Kevin Reddington focused heavily on who was actually using the computer. Paveo testified that he could determine what occurred on the device, but he could not determine who was physically using it. Paveo also testified that he did not know that Patrick played guitar or listened to Tom T. Hall. Reddington brought up calendar entries showing that Dawson had an appointment on August 23rd at Kingston at approximately 9:45 a.m. and Callan had an appointment at 10 a.m. at the same facility. On redirect, the Commonwealth clarified that the Kingston facility is only 4 minutes away from the Clancy home. Paveo said that he was not previously aware of those appointments. Reddington also asked whether Paveo found any searches for ways to kill, and Paveo said no. The next witness was Timothy Chiappini with the Department of State Police. He did the examination of Lindsay's cell phone. The Commonwealth first introduced a search made from Lindsay's phone on January 20th, 2023 at 8:28 p.m. Can you treat a sociopath? The jury was also shown notes stored on Lindsay's phone discussing her mental health and parenting. In one note, Lindsay wrote about feeling sad and depressed, feeling that she was parenting Callan differently than she had parented Cora as her first baby. She wrote about stopping breastfeeding, struggling with sleep, and feeling less connected to Callan. She wrote about wanting to be present for Cora and Dawson, wanting to give Callan the attention that he deserved, wanting time with Patrick, and being afraid of negatively affecting her children. One line of that note read, "I want to feel happy." There was another note that wasn't read in detail, but I was able to grab a screenshot of it while it was showing, so I thought some of you may want to read it. It is titled, "Medication Stole My Motherhood and My Life," so you can pause to read. Chiappini then walked the jury through cell phone activity on January 24th, 2023. During the morning, the phone contained text messages and photographs involving Patrick and the children. At 8:42 a.m., Patrick asked Lindsay, "How's it going?" Lindsay responded that things were good, and she reported that Cora's urine results looked good and there did not appear to be anything wrong with her kidneys. Lindsay then sent an image of Cora and Dawson. It was this image of them with a snowman that was taken on January 24th, 2023 and sent to Patrick from Lindsay. In part of Patrick's reply, he said, "You're a good mama." Lindsay responded with a smiling face and hearts. The phone activity became much more detailed later in the afternoon. Again, this is on January 24th, 2023, the day that the children were murdered. At 4:02 p.m., there was a search involving Miralax for children. At 4:13 p.m., Lindsay's phone searched for 3V Restaurant, including searching for them on Apple Maps. At 4:46 p.m., there was another Miralax-related search. At 4:47, the phone accessed the CVS website. At 4:48, Lindsay's phone placed a call to CVS. At 4:53, Lindsay texted Patrick asking if he wanted takeout from 3V because she had not made dinner plans and it had been a long day. Patrick agreed, and Lindsay replied with "Okie dokie." She then told him, "Check the menu when you can." They exchanged messages about Callan's nap and what they wanted for dinner. At 5:06 p.m., the 3V menu was accessed again from Lindsay's phone. 5:07, Lindsay said that she wanted the Mediterranean Power Bowl. At 5:08, Patrick said what he wanted to order. At 5:09, there was an approximately 11-second phone call, and then at 5:10, there was another phone call that lasted about 47 seconds, and that was a phone call to 3V. At 5:13 p.m., Lindsay's phone searched for Pedialax. At 5:15, Lindsay texts Patrick, Pedialyte liquid stool softener. The phone records then showed that Patrick called Lindsay at 5:33 p.m. There was no listed duration, which means that call was not answered. At 5:34 p.m., Lindsay called Patrick back. That call lasted for approximately 14 seconds. There was another call from Patrick's phone to Lindsay's phone, but the time of that call was not set in court today, so I can't give you that information. Chiappini was then cross-examined extensively about the large amount of information that was contained in Lindsay's phone extraction. I want to say the original file was 180,000 pages, and that was a PDF file. Reddington went through a series of mental health and medication searches that were made during December 2022 to January 2023. On December 29th, the phone contained activity including bipolar disorder and other mental health subjects, along with a search concerning self-harm. On December 31st, 2022, there were searches involving insomnia and psychiatric medications, including trazodone, Zoloft, and Ativan. During January 2023, the phone had additional searches involving Wellbutrin, Lamitol, lorazepam, amitriptyline, ketamine, benzodiazepine, withdrawal, and postpartum mental health conditions. On January 19th, at approximately 9:58 a.m., there was a search involving schizophrenia. There was also a January 19th search involving hallucinations. Then on January 20th at 8:28 p.m., that was when the search came, Can you treat a sociopath? At 8:39 that same evening, there was also a search for psychosis. The phone also contained searches about intrusive thoughts. Reddington also questioned Chiappini about other searches that were referenced in forensic material, including how to find the carotid artery, a particular method of self-harm. It was, how do you cut your throat to make sure that you are no longer living? Can you turn airbags off in a Kia Sorento? And then Reddington asked this witness, were you aware that Lindsay drove a Kia Sorento? And this witness was not. Chiappini repeatedly testified that he did not recall those searches from his examination of the phone, but Reddington happily showed him those searches. He actually had them printed out on very large poster boards. The defense also then went through some very ordinary parenting-related activity from Lindsay's phone. There were searches involving children's movies, Paw Patrol, unicorn-free coloring pages, bunk beds, formula, baby food, and medical questions involving the children. Chiappini was also questioned about text messages between Lindsay and her mother during January 2023. On January 3rd at 8:35 a.m., Lindsay wrote, I'm all right, anxious about meeting with the whole psychiatric team. Minutes later, she expressed concern that they would not send her home soon. Now, January 3rd is the time period that Lindsay was at McLean Hospital. On January 8th, her mother asked if she had slept well. Lindsay responded, I actually did. On January 10th, her mother asked whether she was feeling better during the day, and Lindsay said, a little bit. Her mother again asked on January 12th, and Lindsay again responded, a little bit. On January 14th, at approximately 1:05 p.m., Lindsay told her mother about the same, hanging in there, waiting for the day I wake up and feel like me. Messages continued throughout the days before January 24th. On January 22nd, Lindsay's mother referenced seeing the family the previous day and said that it was nice to see Lindsay doing better. The final witness of the day was Joshua McKelligan, who is the lead investigator on this case. I'm going to make this very short so I can get to the most important part of this video. He testified that they knew Lindsay had been prescribed psychiatric medications, and those were specifically in the search warrant. He also testified that Patrick Clancy brought him medications that had been in his truck, but he was also aware that Patrick and Reddington found more medications in that nightstand drawer that weren't brought to him. Reddington clarified on cross-examination that as soon as they found those medications, Reddington called the DA's office and offered for them to pick them up. No court tomorrow, so I'll see you again next week. Let me know your thoughts on day 13, and most importantly, rest in peace to the 3 children at the center of this case, Cora, Dawson, and Callan.